So thank you so much, everyone, for coming here today and putting up with us. So this is Amir. I mean, you've been seeing me in a lot of images events, and I've been seeing all of you. So it's good to be back within our community, and with new thoughts and new innovative ways of carrying forward this, conversations by images this time in a form of a case studies. So good format in a way because none of the brands are able to, boast about themselves. But now we have our industry leaders to do that for us. So what better opportunity? So today I have with me a visionary thought leader from the retail industry. So who leads the iconic brand in India since last a 50-year-old brand called Liberty. One of the iconics and followed brands in the India landscape. So apart from being a retail offline stalwart, Mr. Anupam Bansal, who's the MD of Liberty, he is a huge fan of technology, loves to experiment with new ideas, and he gives the opportunity to explore in the technology circles, which a lot of legacy brands you may assume are little, not too sure about in terms of experimentations. So here is Liberty with you, and I would basically like to start with asking you a question that how was your journey with GreenHonchos, and what all have we been able to achieve together that you would like to talk about?
So good afternoon, everyone. So I hope this session becomes interesting from the learnings we achieved with GreenHonchos. So I think in any one of the forums about 6-7 years back, I think GreenHonchos is the team I met at one of the images forum. And I think we didn't know Naveen that time. It was too early for us to understand importance of technology. I think GreenHonchos has been instrumental in bringing a lot of e-commerce learning to our company. So our company was typically more manufacturing company and a retailing company, and our focus was more SAP for ERP and POS. To bring in the e-commerce, which I would agree we were not the early starters, and I would give a lot of credit to GreenHonchos to bring a lot of that energy and synergy to the brand. Also, the association came with a lot of challenges because there were a lot of technology already sitting, very fragmented in a way, and a lot of data was there, how to effectively use that data to run e-commerce more effectively. And as a technology person, I always wanted to put it together. I think that is one of the challenge or the learning. I would like to say that to integrate various technology platforms which run independently, and today e-commerce almost tries to get everything integrated. So I think learning and the biggest challenge was to integrate all together, from as basic as product information to images to the supply chain, logistic, or what we are working currently now is more omnichannel, which is about bringing online and offline customers to same platform. So I think biggest learnings and the challenges would come in all these spaces.
Great. So I would also like to ask you that, as people say that the 5 senses are your team in-house, and the 6th sense is always your growth partner or the agency that you say. So I know for a fact that you are a huge proponent of content to commerce strategy. So how has that played out for you in terms of having the customer loyalty and the repeat purchase with the same customers coming in through your association with GreenHonchos?
See, to be very honest, it was a tough journey. So we had typically taken our SAP ERP data flown into the system of Magento, which we originally started. And I think with constant interaction with the team, great content was the key. And to really optimize our typical content and making it more consumer-driven and updating that content into the system by understanding what it really means and what Google would really mean by that, and how do we really optimize that. I think that's a big learning. And moving, because at the end of the day, it's the experience in the, I would say, consumer marketing, which is most important, and how we are upgrading the content constantly with the changing times of either portals or the website. To do that seamlessly and effectively and consistently is most important. Like recently, earlier, the trend was to just take constant shoot with white background. And now, if the trend is to have more lifestyle shoot and still make the content look interesting and still uniform, I think this is the transition. And we are learning every day, and bringing those changes every day is important. And most important is the team working consistently and understanding the challenges, what we have faced in the past, and how we will transform looking at those learnings. I think that's an important area which people should learn.
So great one. So I know for the fact through our working relation that you treat your agency or a growth partner as your extended team. So how important do you think is that long-term approach of working with an agency or choosing a partner whom you know would meet your future aspirations and building that relationship over the period of time? Because when you hire somebody as a team, you invest a lot of time in training them, getting into the brand ethos, understanding your vision and aspirations. So I'm sure that same works with the agency. And how important do you think is that?
So I think I have a very interesting way. Give confidence to the agency all the time, and always have a competitor standing next to you so that you can keep on learning from them. So I think we should keep our ears and eyes open with new technology coming in so that we don't become complacent. And we learn, and at the same time bring across to our team members and take their opinion. They can be devil's advocate or like real great advocates. I think we have been doing constant learning. Consistency of team is important, but at the same time, bringing all other knowledge is very important to the team, and always challenging them, and this is what I keep on doing with your team, I think which works quite effectively for us.
Wonderful. So the forum being phygital, I would also like to ask you, how do you see the parity and the disparity between the offline and the online world in terms of, let's say, product assortments, the sort of offers you run, or the sort of discounts you give, or the pricing strategy? And how have you been able to use that legacy and historic data of the online in your offline to your online journey with GreenHonchos?
See, I think I would like to use a combination here. When we started e-commerce, we started with almost like a common merchandise. Then came a scenario whereby, because 80 to 90% of the market was run by discount or promotions, which was disturbing the main bread and butter, which I would say offline business. And there was a strategy to bring new products which don't really compete with your offline. And I see a trend again coming back whereby same products, and it is more like a convenience model, and the discount model is fading out. I would not say completely, but as a brand, I would like to follow a common strategy whereby the products should be available both at online and offline stores, and a seamless and a consistent experience to be given to the customer. They shouldn't compete with each other. They should align to each other.
Wonderful. And I'm sure there are a lot of D2C brand owners sitting here in the forum, and a lot of people are going to watch this session later on. So what is your advice for new D2C brands to rise above the clutter, and how should they look at their e-commerce journey over the period of years?
So I think it becomes difficult to start advising what has worked for us, works for everybody. I think all product categories behave very differently, and the journey of each company will be very different. People who are just entering the business and they don't have any baggage of offline to carry, and they're starting with the D2C brand, would have a very different approach. And people coming from a legacy would have a different approach. And all product categories behave very differently. I think we should not look at replicating any particular thing constantly. I think we should look at problem in each space and a relevant solution which fits to that brand at that point of time. I think it is important to look at strengthening the P&L rather than burning too much money to begin with. I think that's what most of the people were doing, burning too much money on acquiring new customers. I think we should follow a robust and I would say slow and steady approach, whereby focus constantly on retaining your old customers and retargeting them. I would say re-engaging with them rather than always trying to find the new customer. If your old customers are being serviced well, they come back to you, they will become your role models and bring new customers. So I think I would always like to place more bets on organic customers rather than always getting into, I would say, new customers. At the same time, I'm not trying to defend that a paid strategy is a wrong strategy. I think that has worked for Liberty, and I really believe into it. But there are, I'm sure, customers who would say that acquiring huge amount of customers in the first year has given them great dividends. So I think it works both ways, depending what has worked for each brand.
Wonderful. So one last question before we move ahead is, how important do you see integrating the technology for the customer experience, seamless customer experience? And do you see customer experience as a differentiator while raising up the ladder into the brands category? And do you see that as a main factor in driving the customer loyalty and the repeat purchases?
I think that is the only differentiator. I think most of the people, technology is something which is replicable. And I think the customer experience is something which each brand will have to create. Anybody can come here and buy technology. I think everybody has a booth here. They can just do a contract and buy technology. I think it's the implementation of technology and the customer experience, what you create, is most important. And that would be the only differentiator.
So thank you so much, guys. I hope we have been able to share some key takeaways of your next phase of growth for your e-commerce brands through the learning shared by Anupam sir here. And looking forward for this interaction post this session. We'll be available after this. Thank you so much.
Not quite so easy. You don't get to run away. The jury's got questions for you.
Take the first question. Okay. I think we were just chatting while you were presenting. Of course, very impressive journey in terms of the entire omnichannel enablement that you have gone about. One of the questions that came to most of our mind is in terms of the scale, if you could talk about a little bit more, and also if there are milestones that you had defined, and how have you gone about defining those milestones and achieving the milestone, whether in terms of revenue, in terms of volumes, or anything that you can speak about.
So I think what I could understand from the question, it was not so. You were wanting to know about the milestones which we have achieved?
Also, if you can talk about some quantification in terms of success, either in terms of volumes, a daily average, or anything which you can talk about, which can talk about some scale and also outcomes.
Okay. Just to put some perspective to the data I'm talking about, from Liberty's overall turnover, about we started our journey 5 years back with almost zero, or I would say point, where e-commerce was an irrelevant segment. And I think last 2-3 years, we have made it slightly more relevant, and it is about 8 to 10% of our business. From a focus point of view, I think looking at the customer journey changing and the relevance it is becoming important and relevant within the management eye to look at a differential product strategy, which was completely not there. Creating a lot of products, I think about 20 to 30% of the merchandise is now developed keeping in mind the e-commerce customer, the content, what we are creating for, I would say, the e-commerce customer is not fully getting replicated for the offline customer, because that's also helping our offline customer and internal selling. Let that same data become relevant for our, I would say, internal selling, or I would say internal app to engage with dealers or distributor. So which has also become quite relevant. From the perspective of the consumer behavior, yes, still e-commerce is a very discount-driven, a lower average selling price. Our average selling price of still online is double than the online presence. It's still a low margin business in online because the expense model is very high, unlike which most of the people said that the traditional model will be much more expensive to manage than online. In current scenario, I still feel online is a much more difficult model. I am still waiting for that scale to come, whereby I see this as a cost-saving model than a different way.
Just a connected question. How do you track your pure omnichannel customer? What I mean is, you have your offline customers, you have your customers who come to the e-commerce channel. Who are the customers who shop on both the channels, and how do you track them?
It's a definitely interesting question. Right now, we are not focusing to really identify the common customer. That's a journey we have initiated, and we're trying to make it common. At the moment, both the verticals run differently. They both have different database. They both have different CRM. And we are not trying to interface. And I think that's a journey which we want to climb. And I think in a year or two, we would be more compliant with it.
So there are various technology elements that comprise, creating that experience for the customer. So just want to know what are the elements that GreenHonchos has contributed?
Okay, I think it's an interesting question. For me, various small components. So I think the biggest component was, firstly, we became e-commerce compliant. I think that's the big platform which was created. Integrating the same data on a daily basis, and now I think twice in a day or sometimes thrice in a day, our SAP information had to flow back completely to our online systems in terms of whether inventory, because the same inventory was used for everybody. And now we have a process whereby earlier only, let's say, selected merchandise was exposed to our e-commerce because we wanted to create a larger uptime. And I think with their ability and help, we were able to expose lot more inventory and still maintain those SLAs which were defined by Amazons or the Flipkarts or anybody. And I think to put it together so that the rejections or the cancellations or the returns could be minimized. I think content creation is something which they have really helped us to optimize the data. I think that was very, very important and relevant.
Thank you, gentlemen.